Welcome. This is a presentation of the Master Industrial Design Department at the KABK. I'm Cynthia Hathaway. I'm a teacher here at the department. And with me today, we have the head of the department, Micah Rosenberg, to talk about the program on a sort of in a broader context and the setup of the program. And we also, maybe most importantly, have 3 current students with us of the program, Ritvit Kushu, Rising Lai, and Stefan Lang. And they're going to sort of be the juice in order to show the visualization, the critical thinking, the materialization, ways of thinking of the program, which is always the most interesting, I think. But of course, let's see also how the department is structured, and get to know a little bit about it from maybe an educational point of view. And so I'm going to be talking now with Micah Rosenberg, the head of the department, and I'd love to ask you some questions, starting off with what is this sort of what you're ultimately educating students for in this program?
Thank you, Cynthia. First of all, this is for us something new too, so we have to bit to improvise, but we want to make it as much interactive as possible. So please put your questions in the chat, so we try to answer them too. Of course, we would have loved to welcome you in real life, and we hope still that in the future that opportunity will be there. But for now, we're going to give you the most, well, clear and impression. The main focus of our program, and that's quite important and also different from maybe other more technical focused design, industrial design program, is that we really aim to redesign the industry. So we are not so much in the field of industrial design making new products, but we really want to zoom out and look at this bigger system and reflect on this system. And we really believe in the transformative potential of design, so that designers actually can prototype and envision other ways of dealing with production, with resources, with labor, with how we relate to all the stuff we are owning. And we really believe that designers have the potential to, by questioning the system, envision more sustainable, more culturally diverse, more equal world. So that's really at the basis of the program.
I like this idea that we're not here as a department of industrial design to think about solutions. Can you extrapolate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, of course, we are in need of solutions, but to come up with relevant ones and to sort of transform maybe the world we are in, we first need to question and really look into what's happening, and maybe other things will come up than if you go straight for a solution. Very important in all that is to also collaborate with different fields in questioning. So of course there is science that has its own sort of system of thinking and producing knowledge. We are more into the field of design research, which is more into meaning, and collaboration with, for example, scientists, but also with craftsmen, with makers, with the industry itself, is really at the core to question the system and come up with meaningful directions.
Yeah. And in these collaborations, it's actually a learning community, I think, that happens when the department extends itself and the students to go out into society, work with others, whether they be scientists or other practitioners in different fields. Is there an example or a couple examples of these collaborations recently or in the past that you think really sung about this learning community and that we can learn from each other?
Yeah, well, to begin with, of course, I mean, we start here with 10 to 12 students per year, which means they come from all over the world. They bring in different expertise and backgrounds. So already the group of peers you will be having is very enriching, and there's a lot of exchange happening there. And then at the core of the program is every semester one of these collaborations. So for example, last semester we worked with Ed van Hinten, who's a design critic who works with scientists and focuses on lightness, on how to make, well, our cultural obesity and look into it, and how could you relate differently to the weight and the impact we are having. Another example is that we work with the University Leiden, the archaeology faculty, to see like how does the historical perspective on objects, on products, on tools we made interesting for designers now and in the future. And in these collaborations, it's really about exchange of ideas, bringing different perspectives together, but also different disciplines. So as designer, you will almost never work solo in your practice after. You will relate to other disciplines, and that's also really enriching for these for the projects you'll be working on.
Yeah. And for example, the University of Leiden, working with the archaeologist, the assistant professor, I'm sorry, what was his name? Michael Kuipers?
Yeah, we work together with archaeologist Michael Kuipers, who recently published interesting articles about the materials that shape our culture, but also destruct it in a way. So concrete, stainless steel, these sort of materials we are used to. And as industrial designers, we really used to just, well, look at the functionality of these materials and apply them. But of course, there's a far broader context. And especially archaeologists are used to zoom out to that context. So these materials weren't always there. How did Romans use concrete? So there's far more to it, which could be very interesting perspectives and exchange.
Yeah, and also the fact that archaeologists are digging up materiality to see what humans have made that we can learn from. For instance, plastic. Archaeologists are going to have to deal with plastic forever when they're digging up. So they also can inform us now and in the future what to make and what has sort of been left behind and what impacts it has. So we can learn in this way from archaeologists.
Yeah, well, the whole perspective of thinking of the things you imagine or produce in that perspective, and the idea what people will find in, say, 100 years, it's already an interesting sort of zoom out on what you normally do. It's a big contrast with the sort of unpacking experience that mainly is the focus of industrial designers.
Yeah. So what we make has to be critically thought of because it has impact, it has effect for the future now, and what will be the past. Just one more link to the Archaeologist Collaboration. What did the students, the designers, what did he learn from the collaboration? We learned a lot from others, but I'm curious if there has been anything from him that was talked about what he could see in the way that maybe designers can illustrate an idea or materialize in different ways, what they're thinking about or position themselves. Was there anything?
Well, I think one of the striking things, and as designer you would even not really think about it because it's so part of your practice, that you actually can envision new things. So of course the limit of scientists is that you base on data and it should be referable and scientific. So it means that you don't have the room to speculate, or at least not in the way we can speculate and shape. So we could say if we know how things were before, what can we extract and what can we use and what kind of insight does it give us? But we don't produce text. We can actually apply it or prototype it in a way that it can speculate on what it could mean for the future. And in a way, designers, of course, always work for the future, because when you come up with an idea or even a design or a redesign, it's something that will be produced or made in the future. So it will shape it in any way. So already thinking about, compared to archaeologists, we have a lot of freedom to look forward and even to shape it.
Exactly. And when you say shaping, I think this is interesting because we can start to discuss ethics about design and what is being left out or what is not being included, what kind of perspectives we are looking at that seem to be in need of being broader, more diverse, more inclusive, about the more than human, let's say, different identities. Is this something that the department is embracing?
Yes, definitely. And I think that's also an interesting aspect of this industrial field, that it has this framework, but that we're really at a time that you can look at this framework and see like who is left out and for who is it working, and which voices are actually in there and which are not. And of course, the non-human has been out of the discussion for a long time, but in far history it has been in. So it's fair. I think we are living in a very interesting time to sort of reevaluate the systems we are having. And the industrial system is really one that brings a lot together. So it has economic principles in it, it has a part of culture in it, it has a part of labor and how we live. So it entails a lot of these different aspects. So it's definitely interesting to look at all these different angles. And I'm really always so happy that all the students find their own angle from their own backgrounds and their own fascinations to reflect on that system and come with complete different questions or directions.
Yes, and bring that thinking into the world. Yeah, which is really important to allow that space and a safe space to create that place for curiosity, for feeling that you can tackle certain issues that are normally not taken up by industrial design. So I would say this department is quite flourishing in that space making.
Yeah, and maybe it's good to point out before the people that might listen think, oof, this is going really abstract, or this is becoming really fake, or you're trying to tackle everything in the whole world. But in the end, we are makers. So it's really making and reflecting that's going hand in hand. So we use the qualities we have as designers to ask these questions and to deal with these questions. So we don't produce text. Well, we produce some text, but we produce mainly things that discuss these topics.
Yeah. Talking about texts, you have some publications and magazines. So the department also is trying to communicate itself to the outside world and what we're thinking. And this is also from teachers and students that make these publications and magazines. So these are downloadable. Where can people get access to these publications?
Yeah, it's maybe interesting if you're interested to sort of see what kind of projects there are. Of course, we're going to ask the students in a moment, but you can also find them on the website, because we do publish, we train our students to step into the world, being able to communicate about their projects. So that's in these magazines and publications. I would really love to hear some of the student projects to sort of get examples of how this becomes, well, what they actually do then.
Yeah, I think that would be the best thing. So let's give the floor over to you guys. We're going to start with you first, and maybe you can first start by, well, describing yourself through your work and a short presentation. I think we've got some presentations set up, right?
Yeah, just a few pictures. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Michael. So I've just completed my first semester here at the KABK. What I'm going to show you right now are a few pictures of one project, and also discuss with you the sort of breakdown through the semester that we had briefly. So the pictures that you see on the screen right now are from our collective assessments, which just got over. And here we presented and reflected on the 5 projects that we worked on through the semester. And each of these projects had a different focus. For example, we had a design research project. We had a theoretical framework that focused on critical thinking and reflection. And we had a main project with Ed Van Hint and other projects. The project that I'm going to talk about is the Designing Lightness project with Ed. So this is a book that Ed wrote, Designing Lightness. I think his philosophy is fairly simple in this book. It's that to design for sustainability is to design for lightness and literal lightness. And as Mike was earlier mentioning, we live in a culture of material obesity. And so by reducing the materials, we also reduce the energy consumption of many systems that are in place that are really heavy. And yeah, so we started this project with Ed, thinking about how we can re-examine what a holiday means. Because when people want to travel, there's a lot of energy consumption that happens. And so we were all looking, and this was a class project where all 10 of us in the first semester were working together to have one deliverable, one finished project by the end of the semester. We started by rapid ideation and researching what a holiday means to different people, what a vacation means to different people. Why do people leave the cities that they live in to go and explore different cities on vacations? And it started by this, just dumping research from all sorts of different angles. We chose 3 different angles to understand the holiday, and they were food, entertainment, and culture. The small group that I worked in was the entertainment group, where we were looking at why people go on holidays, what entertainment are they seeking, and so on. So the 3 of us in the first earlier group were working on looking at how we can reimagine our own cities instead of traveling to different cities. And what we were doing was trying to reimagine how we can provide a new experience to people living in their own cities. And the angle that we chose was designing for different sensorial landscapes. Can we give a different sensorial landscape to a viewer or a city inhabitant and enable them to view their city in a completely different light? For instance, what is the sensorial landscape of a bird that flies through the city, or a fish that swims in the pond, or a tree that's planted in a park? How can we reimagine the human experience from these different angles? And so we designed a few rapid ideas using AR and VR to provide maybe this experience to people. And then eventually the whole class got together and we started working on one collective solution called Dream Ventures, which is a project where we're designing for night holidays. Can the night become an avenue for people to experience the cities in a completely different light? And yeah, this project was really challenging because all of us were working together. And the outcome of this project is actually a complete, from business to marketing to the details of the program. We've designed a night holiday for people of The Hague. And yeah, we'll be presenting this soon, perhaps at the New Institute. Yeah, I think that briefly sums up. Yes, yeah.
Can you, sorry, just before we quickly go on, can you describe a bit of what we're seeing here?
Yeah.
Because there was something about a railway. What's happening there?
So what we did was we tried to relook at the city. How does the city get transformed at night? What comes to life at night? And we try to curate a program that sort of takes people through this different night life experience. Mm-hmm. And the one picture that I put there was one of the activities of the night package program, holiday, where you walk through the city at night through these abandoned and tram routes, mm-hmm. Where trams don't work, like trams aren't running at night. So you walk through these and then you have tools that help you observe their surroundings much better. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes an interaction with the night in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. And we also have the other picture that I was showing was a night kit that people who subscribe to this package would get. And this night kit would have many different smaller objects that would help you transform your own house into like a hotel room to give you the feeling of, or like a camping room that gives you the feeling that you're somewhere else. And so it transforms your own indoors setup into some new environment. And yeah, we really looked at it from different angles. And I think the biggest takeaway for this project was that from research to the end deliverable, we thought about it from different angles and designed it down to the detail, including the business model, the prices for the packages, the marketing, yeah, and everything. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And also with Ed Van Henta as your
Yeah.
leader,
Yeah.
you're bound to get into really beautiful, unusual light experiences without having to design all this infrastructure, use the infrastructure that's already there in different ways. Okay, thank you, Dick. Who would like to show us next some of your work or the work of the program, Rising?
Yes. Yes. So I think you already see how the department structure the courses, and Ludwig just gave us a really clear and how many critical thinkings and concept that behind one project can be in one semester. So I'm going to show 3 of my project that from semester 1 to now, which is also my graduation project, and I would like to give this project as an example how design can change the industry from different perspectives. So first is this project, and it's actually a collaborative project with design studios, Berlin, and also a research project in EU. And the big thing is textile. So what we did is, like, every student, we choose one small text that we see or that weren't being solved yet in the textile industry. And myself, I choose this problematic fiber, acrylic fiber, and trying to do material experiment and also making small products and imagine how would the production procedure be if we want to reuse this material. So this is, like, for me, it's like the first phase, how I entered this program. I still wanted to make something that is usable, that it can be a product, but after this, because we have this in all our assessment, actually, we really emphasize the quality and the value of reflection. So after this project, I started to wonder, maybe just like also Michael mentioned, that providing solutions, it's not the only responsibility or the thing we can do as a designer. So next, move to the next phase, semester 2, and as mentioned, we collaborate with, we get lectures from Leiden University, Archaeology faculty, and this is the sort of outcome and and also, like, trying to see how archaeology methodologies and theories can be provided in a design project. So this project, I actually collaborate with one of the master student in archaeology faculty. And so what we did is we tried to imagine how the way they look into the past can be projected into how we look into the future. So in this project, I designed the glass containers that can be read and designed for archaeology to read the civilization in human history. So this project, even though it's not like typical industrial design, like we design product for customer, for the market, but it is a product for future human or for the speculation of future. And this project really, and also this collaboration between me and discipline I have zero knowledge with, it's really interesting, and also brought up my horizon, like how design can be placed in everywhere. Just you need to have your own approach and knowing that how you position yourself. So for my graduation project, I decided to look back into my own history, which is the culture I came from, Taiwan. And in this project, I wanted to be universal, to be communicatable for people from different cultural backgrounds, but also I wanted to be precise and respect my own culture. And so, as you can see from the beginning of the semester, from the beginning of this program, first year, I still trying to producing products, but now I'm evolving and more like design for me as a profession is how I position myself, how I communicate with others, not only design for the consumerism, for example, let's say,
And for a multitude of futures, I think.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, I think, the trajectory from first year to second year is that the first year gives you some tools and a staff that can help support you and projects to get things rolling. And then the second year is really more about, hey, how can I start to position myself within design, and what matters matter, and how to make those matters matter.
Yeah, exactly. I think what helps me like a lot is the courses we have in first year, even though it takes like from like we adapting or we learn the theories and the concept from every discipline, but we also see the possibility that was overlooked before. Yeah, and that helps me a lot to develop my own project, because in the end, graduation project is not just, I mean, you can just make a chair, like, but also I think most importantly in this program is that the department and also the atmosphere is we really want to change the industry, but not only the industry of like every industry.
Yeah.
And maybe it's good to mention, because you quite nicely frame it in your own project, Rising, but for potential interested students, that it's not so much that we have a sort of format, we teach you how to become a certain kind of designer. We offer you in these different semesters methods and ways of researching, for example, or designing, to really support you to shape your own position as a designer, to be able to have a professional career afterwards that's really based on your own interests and fascinations and qualities, and shape that into your professional practice.
Yeah, I saw the program, I saw the courses and the workshop we have here as a platform that you can decide you like this approach or not, but in the end, it's your decision, your designer, you're the designer. So I think it's good to have this structure to me.
Yeah, so it gives you the liberty to shape yourself, but also the responsibility to have a really active attitude as a student to shape your own practice. Yeah.
Because there's also in the second year a moment of deep reflection. I mean, you guys really have to sort of settle down and start thinking about your subject matter. We'll get to you, no, for sure, Stefan, I'm not forgetting you. That you really have a moment to choose your subject and go really deep into it. And that takes probably some time and effort and getting really into research and texts and references, what other people think, what other maybe even designers are doing, but it's part of positioning yourself, I think, too. So it's a textual, but also a very contemplative moment in the second year that you get this time to just like, whoo, what am I interested in, and what is it about anyway? And do you find that moment really something that you normally don't have time to do in your practice?
Yeah, of course. I think that's something that I never think about, saying that I want to put myself or having personal motivation to do a design. But now I feel like because I have that makes my design or my research goal more clear. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah. So there is a moment where a thesis is created so that you can have a sort of a backbone to support the making. And thinking through making is also a very important element, but there is also a moment of just very deep reflection and also making in terms of that reflection. So, well, maybe that's a nice way to introduce what you're working on, Stefan.
Well, yeah, sure. So my name is Stefan. I'm like rising a second-year student, and what would be maybe also nice to mention, I joined the program as an interior architect. So I had a different background than industrial design, but was very interested in that. And before also I worked as a graphic designer. And in the project I'm gonna show you now, the making was a big part of it. That was a project from the second semester. That we worked we worked together with Bas van Beek and the Wolfsonian Museum in Miami. That museum has a very big collection and an archive, and our task was basically to choose an object that we found in that archive and really first research it thoroughly and come up with a new design through that. In my case, since I had a background in graphic design, I chose El Lissitzky and a graphic that he made. El Lissitzky is an architect, or was an architect, and also produced a vast amount of graphic work. And for that, my goal was to have a typeface. So that was a very playful exercise in between all these big issues that we were tackling in the other courses, which was quite nice. And yeah, so basically first I looked at all his work, analyzed the form, the color, and yeah, the general language and positionality also of his designs. That was quite radical and new. And through that, I came up with a series of different letters, basically. That's, I think, in the next slide, you can see those. It was really about a relationship of form and the tension that you can create in his crowns. Those are the graphic works that he made. It was always about tension and proportions in those pictures, and I translated that into those as well. In the next slide, I think you can see many of the actual letters. In the following slide, you can see how that would look like once it becomes a real text. So every letter, every word, depending on the combination, creates a new graphic work. And that was the idea. So what would have Lissitzky done if he actually had the graphical design tools of today? And that's what I translated in there. And it was always based on a rhythm that I created in the background, basically. That's the last slide you can see in the next one. Exactly, so it was very much about graphic rules that then create a real big playing field on top of that. So once you had those rules set, it was creativity and fun all the way, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also a very nice course within that semester. So we do have archaeology, we do have a lot of moments where we think about our own intentionality and positionality within that, but then there are also these possibilities of really opening up the creative side and having that together really makes a nice body of work at the end of the semester.
Yeah, because I love that about design, is that you can go almost anywhere. It's your imagination, it's how you're seeing the world. Here you are working with the translation of an architect into graphics. It's not necessarily, a thing. It seems to be also to do with perspectives, mentalities, using your creativity across many, many fields. It's quite fluid, this idea about being a industrial designer, if we are indeed talking about in industry.
Yeah, maybe it's also good to mention that we're not really aiming that there's quite some room to develop the kind of work you want to develop. So some students are graduating with a film, or with it could be an app, it could be an object, or it could be a prototype. So it's quite broad. Yeah. What they all have in common is that they reflect on the system and take a position. But it isn't necessarily that you end up with the classical industrial product. that you could imagine. So it's quite broad. It should really reflect how you want to position yourself, the place you want to take in the field after your graduation. And it also means that after the graduation of our students, some students end up more in the research field, advising, having collaboration with scientists, for example, developing new products or way of producing. So, for example, in the textile industry, developing a new machine that could make seamless connected clothing, so you don't have to make different parts together. So that's more like a research-based practice. There are also designers who start their own studios and collaborate and have built within studios projects, but there are also alumni who work within studios, work within bigger research institutes or in education. So also the field where you end up is quite broad. We are really aiming to support you in developing this position and also support you in, well, becoming the kind of designer you want to be.
Yeah. And that's a bit what when I think about some of the works of the department is I really enjoy seeing how the students go out into the world, that, you know, they contextualize their ideas and ways of thinking by applying this into a real context. So for instance, you know, someone will go out and work in the forest or by the sea for, you know, 3 months. So this dedication, this responsibility, but also vulnerability that's really needed with designers today, I think is, you know, we don't know the answers necessarily. Why should we be the ones who have the answers? You know, the world is, we're at a moment in the world where we need to start to be with it rather than in it or develop, you know, making it.
Yeah, so but we're also in a world where you want to make your living from the profession.
Exactly.
So in the end, you want to end up somewhere in a context that what you're doing is valuable and that you can make a living out of it. And I'm really proud that if I look at my alumni, they all find their own position and also find a way to live from the position they are choosing. So it's not only being radical or having criticizing, but also thinking along within systems and contributing in that framework and being able to, well, have professional careers.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I'm curious, are there questions coming in?
Maybe I will read them out. As we are talking about the background symbolic of materials, do you have students that have more of a background in this topic? About, I guess we're talking about materials, but more on a representational point of view. I think that's what this means.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I got the question correctly, but please add if it's not. Maybe it's good to mention that we have students from really different backgrounds. So either really technical schooling or bachelor's, or more from art schools, but also, for example, anthropologists or sociologists. So of course you need to be able to make work in a certain level and quality, but we really aim to have put a team together where you have these different backgrounds of students. So it's also really an exchange happening within the student body, because I think you, for example, have more an artistic background. Stefan has a quite technical background, so it means that you bring a lot of qualities in. There's also a lot of expertise within the group, and of course here at the Academy we have also quite a broad expertise in all kinds of different materials, disciplines, workshops. So you can quite, on the sort of angle you want to take, you can find support to develop yourself in it.
I can maybe add to that. So on the technical side, so I came into this department with a material understanding that was very focused on life cycle assessments and always looking at that very technical sustainability on that side. But what I really enjoyed about the process of the last 1.5 years is understanding the material through the material, applying it, understanding it, and that really changed my understanding of how I look at the world around me. And yeah, I think that's also a very nice aspect of this master's, that it's not about just bringing in your expertise, but learning from the others and yeah, maybe seeing new possibilities.
Mm-hmm. And what the material is saying to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see here. I think that answers also this question about whether you can follow this program if your bachelor's degree is not in industrial design.
Yeah. But, of course, we are an industrial design master, so we expect a certain level of making. But through the years, we also discovered that there are students which are educated differently, for example, as anthropologists, but always have been making a lot and have a sort of level of making to follow this course. So in the end, if you apply, we look at three things, like the position you want to take towards the industrial field or what you want to learn, because of course we have to check if what we are offering actually is what you want to develop. So that's a bit of the check we have to do together. So you need to describe clearly what you want to develop yourself and how you want to develop yourself professionally, and you have to support that with work you have been doing, so that can be different backgrounds or studies, but also artistic work. So there need to be a documentation, a portfolio of the stuff you've been making, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a level or a bachelor degree in an art or design field. You can have a bachelor degree in another field, but then you have to show through your portfolio that you have enough, that you will be able to translate your work and build on it.
Exactly. Let's see here. What projects have past graduates of the course gone on to do? Are they focused more in a particular field of design? And if so, what? You touched upon it a little bit, Micah, but maybe...
Yeah. No, it's quite diverse, the sort of projects they end up with. Do you want to give an example as students?
Our class, what they... I'm gonna pass this on to Roy.
Maybe I will give a few examples. So last year, or in the last years, we had, for example, a big cloud that would clean out small particles of plastic and synthetics out of the air and sort of show you what's flying around in your house. So it's more like an object machine related end product. She also ended up working in a studio where she's exactly developing these kind of machines. And totally different project would be, let's see, Job, who graduated with actually tools that let you look at the world and especially at nature differently by taking in this the perspective of a bird. So how to look at your surrounding as if you were a bird. And he designed the tools to actually give you that experience. But there was also a project which we imagined that could work at festivals, for example, that really focus on the digital footprint we are having and how our digital media is sort of influencing our brains and how our memory works. So actually by posting a lot of Instagram, we tend to forget stuff actually. So it's really attacking our memory. And she built an installation where she invites people to have exactly that experience by documenting that moment with your digital camera and getting out a Polaroid that will start to deteriorate a long time. So it's more like offering and building a sort of experience for people to exactly experience that effect. So it's quite broad. It can be more experience-based, it can be an app, it can be a product. So it's, the output can be quite broad.
Very broad. I think we have to wrap it up. It sounds like we have to move faster. Oh, okay. No, sorry. What is the study load of the masters? For example, how many physical lessons and how many self-study do you have during a week in industrial design.
I see Sarah Hagen's probably
Zara has answered it already.
Yeah.
Is there a motivation letter, portfolio tips?
Yeah.
That are
Well, maybe. That's a nice one for. Does one of the students have a comment on that? What
Tips.
tips?
Okay, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what they're really looking for is maybe to have clear intentionality with the work that you create, and at least a hint of what kind of position you want, like where you want to position yourself as a creator, at least in your portfolio, and maybe your motivation letter has to reflect the same. Yeah.
What do you think?
You guys?
I think, especially if you're students from industrial product engineering background like me, I think we sometimes forget the value of process, and in the requirement of our program, we wrote very clearly that it's more about the process and what's the concept behind it, but not just the results. So I think it's good if you contain what your intuition in the beginning, how you start this product or this project, and how you also reflect back of your results. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's good to add to that, Rising, because that's really right, that we are interested in what you want to learn. So if you can describe in your motivation not only what you already have achieved and done, but also what you see as your next step, and you don't have to know everything, but what you would like to develop, because then we can also see if that actually is something we have to offer you. Or that there's maybe another institute that fit better what you want to develop.
Yeah. Okay, Zara, you've answered the last question, it looks like. Is that no, you haven't. Is it common to accept students that have been working in the industry for quite some time, or does the university focus on accepting recent graduated students?
Yeah, that's also a very good question.
Yeah.
No, we love to have students who have experience in the field, and a lot of the students who come in here have. So we most of the time have a few that come straight away from the bachelor's, but most of them have been working in the field, experience certain things there, but also have certain wishes what they want to develop further. So they bring in their background, but also this experience of working in the field. And most of the time that gives them a really clear focus on what you develop more, because you have already more experience. So actually that's really valuable to have already work experience.
So it's great also because maybe in your work experience you're missing something, and this allows you the 2 years of self-reflection, of really also determining, hey, I actually would like to develop more in my design trajectory, this angle, and this will give me the time to do that. So I think being what's called maybe a late bloomer or coming back into the education system can only be something that can be beneficial, to give the space, the time to, of course, sort of also think about what's going on in design and how you can change with it or how you can change design. So I think being a mature student is very valuable, as much as somebody who's just come out of undergrad and it doesn't feel quite ready even to get into the professional field. You just want a little bit more time to tweak things, refine things, and see where you sit.
Yeah, and we make a mix out of that.
Yeah.
Also from the student side, maybe it's nice to mention that once you're in that group environment, I don't know how it is for Rifik, but for us, those group discussions are very, very valuable always. So on the one hand, the experience that you have and that you bring into the discussions benefit everybody else. But sometimes, at least it was for me like that, when you're already used to a way of working, the other people can maybe start to question it, having a fresh take or a completely new look on the topic, and that helps you as well. So it's a very, very dynamic process that you go through then with this experience.
Yeah.
Do we
Can
still
I
miss?
propose two final questions?
Yes.
One is, what kind of designer does the course aim to create?
That's a good question. And also one that's hard to answer in the sense that we don't really have a mold where we squeeze our students in. It's exactly that we want to offer them a program that helps you to shape your own position within the field. So we are not going to tell you how good design, what it looks like. We are not going to tell you what's right and what's wrong. We will support you and help you shape this position yourself, and also towards a sort of aesthetics or what kind of product needs to be out there in the end. Yeah, we guide you in the process of finding it out yourself actually and creating the position you want to take.
The final question, for our current students, what interested you in choosing this master program?
As Michael mentioned earlier, I come from a more artistic background, and I think my earlier ways of creating was limited to, say, writing or paintings and installations. But I really wanted to find a way to materialize my ideas a little better and to bring them to life a little better. And I chose this master's program because I felt like it was neither too technical nor too artistic. It was in that sweet spot right in the center, where I could find and have my own space to figure out what language I want to use to express ideas, and how I want to materialize these things. And I think, yeah, it's serving as a good space for that. Yeah, that's why I chose this master's program.
For me, it's actually the diversity of the student, and because I saw all the alumni graduation project and found it so exciting, and that exciting is what I missed when I was working in the design industry before this education. And also all the information that provide on the website is quite clear, and the background of all the tutors, and it's diverse, and it's not just only industrial product designers, but also artists or theorists. So that's why I choose the program.
Yeah, and for me, it was the solution not being something that you already have at the beginning, but questioning the whole field that you're researching and being open to change and different ways of looking at things. And yeah, that was the reason why I came here.
Very nice. Well, that's a good way to kind of end it, or create new beginnings. Let's see, with you out there. And thanks for tuning in and for your questions. Thank you to the students and to Micah for this moment of communicating what we do here. And if you have further questions that you would like to have answered, please contact our program coordinator, Zara Rulsa, and I think you can find her email address on this website as part of the Industrial Design Masters program. So, well, we hope to see you in the future, and if not, happy tidings, and continue forth.
Yeah, and if there will be any occasion to invite you here at the studio or at the academy, so you can really feel the atmosphere and check if that is where you're aiming for, then we will let you know as soon as it will be more open up.
Yeah.
Until that time, reach out to us with questions, with more information. Yeah, we are really interested to hear more about you.
All right. Thanks
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Bye-bye.